Okay. So I'm glad to be here. I know that your church's name is called Momentum, which means that the idea is that you're moving somewhere, right? You're going somewhere, right? So I don't know about you, but if you admit it, like how many of you have ever gotten lost going somewhere? No, okay, now, oh, okay, some of you men are really authentic because most of us guys would not say, oh, I'm not lost. I'm just taking the scenic route, right? And then when you're driving and then your wife would say, stop and ask someone. It's like, no, that's going to take more time, you know. And then it's going to show people like, I really don't know where I am. So, you know, I'm just like, I'll just keep on cruising, you know. You know, we could afford to do that back in the day when gas was like only like $2 a gallon or something like that. But I remember one time, this was actually several years ago, I was going someplace and I got lost. Actually, I was down in Irvine and I'm coming back to Long Beach. That's where I live, and I'm a bicyclist, so I'm going to a friend's house to go pick up. You know, we don't call it shirt; it's called a kit or jersey. Okay, what you wear. And so I'm going there to go pick that up, and then I got distracted and I missed my freeway exit. You know, that's easy to do around here. So I go to the wrong exit, and I'm saying, oh, okay, that's okay. I still know where to go. And so I go into a neighborhood that looks like it, and you know how some of the neighborhoods are around here. Everything looks like the same, right? Same, especially in your Orange County, just like cinder block walls. You know, everything looks the same. So I thought, okay, this is the block. This is where I go. And then I realized, oh no, that's not it. So then I get out to a main street, which I know, and then, you know, I'm driving along, and then the warning light goes off on my dashboard, like gas is low. And I go, oh my goodness, I'm gonna run out of gas. So me, being the economical person that I am, is like, I'm not near Costco or Arco, so I have to go to the Shell station, right? And so I'm like, okay, I'll just put in like, at that time, okay, gas was lower, so I can put in $5 worth, okay? So I just put that in, and then I'm looking, I go, I need to find out where this place is. So I'm an old school guy, it's like a Boy Scout, so I have paper maps, okay, if you guys remember what those are. So I'm looking at my maps, and my area where I live, I don't have that map. And then, you know, back in the day too, before you have smartphone, you know, like I have a GPS, like a Garmin. It's like, dang, I left that at home. So I'm like, and I'm trying to figure out where to go. Like, well, how do I find this place? And then it dawns upon me, why don't I just call the person, you know, and ask her, okay, you know, I have to ask her for directions on how to get to her house, right? That's the last thing on my mind. But, you know, call her up and I say, oh, you know, how do I get to her house? She goes, go down this street, you go this way, turn at this light, and then you'll be there. And I go, okay, that's easy. So then I go there and I get on the street and I start driving, and then I'm thinking, no, wait a minute, this is the wrong way. Then I do a U-turn and I come back to the light, and then I go, wait a minute. But the person I talked to, she's at her house, she knows where she lives, so I should follow her directions and get there. So then I do a U-turn, I go back, follow directions, and then eventually I got there and I got my bike jersey. You know, so I'm happy, right? But the thing is, what I realized what I was missing at the time, right, which now most of us rely upon it, is I didn't have my GPS with me, right? Because if I had my GPS with me, I would have been fine. I would have gotten there without all this trouble, right? So the question is, they said, actually, so you guys know what GPS stands for, right? What does it stand for? Okay, well, we're in the book of Hebrews, right? So actually what it stands for here, let's see, where's my clicker? Which way do I go? Oh, I need to turn it on. Okay, which way? Okay, your GPS actually stands for your God-powered security. I'm going to be looking at Hebrews about someone, and the reason I'll explain this is we're going to be looking at someone actually, he was going to go to another place. But it wasn't just like in the city, just next door. He was going to be going to a new country, actually, location he had never been before. Okay? And he didn't have the directions on where to go. But he was also promised that he would receive something good, a reward for that. And I know that you've been going through the book of Hebrews. So Byron shared with me that we're looking at Hebrews 11, which is going to be talking about having faith. Faith or trusting God to go someplace. So Abraham, many of you are familiar with him, but he is someone that is looked at as kind of like a patriarch of faith, a father of faith that trusted God, and he went someplace, and as a result, he was blessed, and actually we are blessed through that. Okay? Now, if you're looking here in the book of Hebrews, and you get to chapter 11, first of all, it starts off by defining or explaining to us what faith is. Now, many of us, we've been around in the church and all and say, yeah, we talk about faith all the time, or you see people, you go, keep the faith or whatever, have faith in God and all that. But I want to review this because I think sometimes that our idea and concept of faith is not as accurate as it should be. Okay, now, Hebrews explains, says, now faith is a title deed of things hoped for, the proof of things which are not being seen. Okay, this is let's see, amplified version of it. It actually, in the NIV, it says, faith is being sure what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. But literally it means faith, it says, is the title deed of things hoped for, proof of things that are not seen. Now, some of us, okay, you own property, right? You own real estate, or you own a car, right? You have a pink slip or a title slip. And actually what it's saying faith is that you have this title that says that this thing legally belongs to you. Okay? You have a piece of paper, but you have something physical to see that, yeah, okay, so the piece of paper shows me that my house in Long Beach, it belongs to me. Or your automobile that you have said that, yeah, this car is sitting in the driveway, right? Your nice Tesla sitting there, and you're driving. This belongs to me. I own it. Now, what it's saying about faith, it uses that same term that they would use in documents. It says, this is proof that you have something. But when it talks about faith, it's saying it's that you own or have something that is unseen. It might be a hope or promise of something in the future, which you don't see, or maybe you cannot physically grasp it right now. It's like an intangible thing. Like, we sang about having hope, having faith. Like when you say, oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, like I have eternal life, I have salvation, I have peace. But you say, well, people, well, where is it? Are you keeping it in a safe deposit box? Where actually do you hold that? Or even something like when you talk about love, they say, well, it's not something tangible that you can touch and feel. But it says that you have faith in this, but this is the title deed. It shows you that it belongs to you. So the thing is understanding that you and I, we live in a world actually that we operate by faith all the time. And so this is something that we in Southern California don't know or understand. Okay, this is like ice fishing. This is like, I have some friends that are from Wisconsin, and I go, what do you guys do in the wintertime? Here it just turns brown. They said, well, when the lakes freeze over, build a little hut, and then they go out in the lakes, they cut a hole there, and they just sit there, I had a friend that he said, the wife would say, you go out fishing, but do you ever catch anything? And he goes, it's called fishing, not catching. But so what happened, this is about like 10 years ago, there's a tournament in Wisconsin. And so these people they're there and need to park their car. So actually they have quite a bit of faith. They have quite a bit of faith on the ice on the lake. So the ice is about a foot thick. They said, that's okay. It's okay to drive my car on there, right? So they drove their car out there. Several cars are out there. But in the meantime, it starts to get warming up a little bit, right? And there's several cars all parked together, and then crack, crack, and then, whoa. Okay, so, and that's going to be an insurance problem. Okay, I don't think it's covered by that. And then, especially, okay, now I know what you're thinking there. Okay, there's water in the engine, so that means that car is gone. But understand that I think they're mostly guys that are out there ice fishing, is that they're thinking, I have a lot of faith in this ice. I've got a lot of faith because I'm driving my, 30, 50K SUV there out on the ice to go fishing. So I'm trusting this ice to hold it up. But apparently their faith in the ice, they had a lot of faith because they're actually showing it by driving their car on there. It didn't work. It didn't hold up at all, right? So now if you go, now if you go to Greenland, now here's the thing. If you go to Greenland and maybe you're saying, man, I don't have a lot of faith at all. Okay? But you're driving, say you're driving a big Humvee, okay? But environmental, it's an electric one, okay? You're driving a big Humvee and you go, man, I don't have a lot of faith, but I'm going to drive on the ice cap in Greenland. Now, in some places in Greenland, the ice is almost a mile thick, but it's probably lower now because things are melting. Okay? But even though you may not have that much faith, but you could even drive like a semi-trailer, on that, and it will, no matter how warm it gets or so, it's not going to crack, it's not going to fall through. Now, so this is about faith, because you're talking about, I need to have faith. And sometimes when you talk about faith, people are thinking that, yeah, you just need more faith. If I can just get more faith, I'll be more spiritual. I'll grow more. And see, here's the one thing that we miss about faith. See, the issue about faith is not actually the size of your faith, but the size of the God that you're putting your faith in. Right? See, I can put a lot of faith into very thin ice, but it still won't hold me up. But if I have very small faith, if I'm very timid, I'm so scared to step on the ice, especially I might slip and fall. Okay? But if your faith is in, thick ice, then it works. Because the reason is the faith is dependent upon the object of faith. So the issue is that not how much faith you have, but what you have placed your faith upon. See, so when we're looking at Abraham, and we say, okay, Abraham, you need to go to another location. Take your family, all your possessions, move to another land. Now, it's like, who is telling you to go there? And who is promising you something better? Okay? Who is giving you that promise? And so, ultimately, when you're thinking about it, and the reason those of you here, it actually is called Momentum Christian Fellowship. Okay, so the term Christian means actually it was used in the New Testament actually as a kind of a mocking of the early believers, because they say, oh, they're acting like little Jesuses. They're pretending they're like Jesus. They're in their character and what they're doing with other people. They're being kind. They're loving people. They're forgiving people. They're helping people that are in need. They're showing hospitality, right? So they're being like little Christ, which means like little messiahs, okay, running around, right? So ultimately, though, we're saying, yeah, we're followers of Jesus. So actually, our faith or our trust, what our trust is in Jesus. So you know how the motto goes, okay? Like on our dollar bills, right? It says, in God we trust. So I work with a lot of different people, but it's always like, in God we trust, but all others pay cash, right? Cash is king, right? So we do have this faith in Jesus. Now, what does the life of faith look like? Say, if you're really trusting in this big God, what is it going to look like? So Abraham is example. Okay, now, oh yeah, there's one other thing actually to add here, though, about faith, which is important or critical, is that it says here, by faith, and Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commanded as one who pleased God. And without faith, it's impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. So it gives us an example of Enoch, a guy that was in the Old Testament, but he said that he was someone who pleased God. So the purpose of his life was pleasing God, giving pleasure to God, okay, enjoying God. And then it says that, but if you do not have any faith, he said, it's impossible to please God. You have to have some faith. He said, and it says, and he will reward those. Okay, so because you have to believe that he exists. Now remember again, say God, we believe in a God that is intangible. You can't touch him, smell him, or see him. You can see the effects of what he is doing and all, but you can't physically hold God in a box or so. And actually, we say God is greater than that. He created the whole universe. But he said that he is a rewarder of those that are seeking after him. And just a reminder, the reason actually you're here this morning and here is that you're here. Actually, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about God. It said, I'm seeking God, I'm worshiping God, I'm hearing about him, learning more about him, right? So, okay. So I'm going to, cover three things here about understanding about faith in Abraham. So faith, first thing is understanding that if you're a person of faith, living by faith, you will go to new places. You're going to go to a new place, a new or different place. See, it says here in Hebrews 11, verse 8, it says, by faith, Abraham, he was called to go to a place he would later receive as inheritance. He obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Now, I want to just explain this. So back in the day there, okay, this is a couple thousand years ago, there is no GPS. Okay? There's no satellite. Okay? There may or may not even been like a written map. Okay? He is actually, and in those days, after some people for generations lived in the same place or same village. Like, so my people ask you, where am I from? I go, I'm from Long Beach. Right? Can't you tell? Anyways, but originally, no, I said, my grandfather came from southern China. And so, my father's passed away, gone to be with the Lord, but one time, he went back there to the ancestral village, which I know is somewhere just in southern China there. But what I know is that there is like a village over there, which is the Lum village. Okay? And, they've been living there for generations and generations, but then at the time, it was around the turn of the century, my grandfather had a brother that at the time, they didn't have enough money to come all the way to the U.S., so they just went halfway to Hawaii. So there's a lot of people from that region that they just took the boat and they went to Hawaii. There's a big Lum association there. Okay, so back in the day, I'm very dated. Back in the day where there was something called a telephone book, okay, with pages that you had to look up to find things. Okay, is that when I looked at the telephone book in Long Beach, there was like only one Lum listed, right? There was like no Asians in my neighborhood at all. But in Hawaii, there was like 5 pages of Lums all listed, right? And so, and what happened is that, people that said, want to have an opportunity to immigrate, get better opportunities. So they would be going from there to Hawaii, they're going to a new place, right, for new opportunity. So, but for generations, people had just lived there, just that because out of necessity, they say because of poverty or because of war or other difficulties. That's what we see happening nowadays too, is that people are immigrating because of difficulties. A lot of people, they don't really want to leave their home country, the places where they're at, right? Unless there is like a crisis of something they have to do. Now Abraham, though we see is that he's actually pretty well-to-do. He's got family, he's got resources and all. And so, but God says, I want you to take all that and move. So, and it's like, wow, most people wouldn't be doing that. And then so, of course, the question is like, where am I going? Well, I'll show you. Like, when am I going to get there? I'll let you know. What's going to happen there? I'm promising you it's going to be good. Now, if you're listening here, you're listening to me, and you say, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. You're promising me something good, a blessing's going to be happening if I just pick up my whole household and I move, somewhere else. Okay? But that's what he's promised. And it actually he says that he's promised to get an inheritance. Now, I like this. It says literally, he did not know where he was going. Okay? God, now, guys, man, you guys got to shake your, not with me agreement, like, I don't know where I'm going, okay? So they're literally, he doesn't know where he's going. Now, at least for me, I know where I'm going, or I've been to this place before, and a map or something, but he does not know where he's going. He has not been there. No one he knows from his hometown where has been there. Okay? So, he's asked to go there, and, so he doesn't know where he's going. Now, and then we see here by faith, he's promised, he made his home in a promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him with the same promise. For he was looking for the city with foundations, and the architect and builder is God. Okay. So, I like this other idea, just a thought that, thinking about that he lived like a stranger in a foreign country. Stranger in a foreign country. Like, now I know that some of you, maybe that your parents or your grandparents, have immigrated from somewhere else, right? Like, that you're not native here, right? And so, he said, yeah, they're living, he went and he lived as a foreigner in a different country, right? Now, you might not be able to relate to being, from a foreign country. So this is something that you might better relate to, okay? Now, I'm of the era where I saw the original series on TV, okay, Star Trek. And my older brother who lives here in town, he's a real Trekkie. I mean, he does the cosplay and all. He goes to the conventions and everything. Okay, and actually the show is, if you think about it, I think it's been about 50 years since the original showing, but it's still really popular. And I believe part of the popularity of the show. Now, this is way before. Okay, this predates Star Wars, all the other stuff. Some people might remember Starship Galactica, all these other things that happened before. The first kind of major science fiction movie thing and all, like the idea of warp drive, okay, that came from there, all these things. But the opening credits of the show, if you watched it, I think this is one of the things that people said, I like this show. At least one of the reasons I liked it. It starts out there. Okay, you see space, and it goes here. It goes like this. It goes, space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its continued mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life, new civilizations. And then, here, it says, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And then you hear this music. Okay, but this paragraph though, it says to boldly go where no man, no woman, no human has gone before. They're going to go there. And so every week when you would watch the episode, even like the Next Generation, they're going to another planet somewhere else. And you need the warp drive because they're light years away. Okay? But you're going to another place and they're meeting these strange, different people, right? Now my wife, she's more of a simple, well, no, not simple. She just likes other things that are more realistic. Like she likes to watch K-dramas, okay, which are about real life or what's happening with people. But she says, I don't get this science fiction because I don't know what these characters are. And especially, when they do a time warp and they go back in time and then they're going forward in time. She lost track, the first hyper jump she already lost. Where are we now? We're in our living room, we're just watching this. But she's like, I don't know where they are. Okay. So the thing is the question is really where are you going, right? It's where are they going next? Right? They're going to go to a new place and meet new people, right? And so this is the thing. Abraham, he's going to be going to a new place. No one knows where they're going. I can imagine the conversations honey, where are we going? We're going that way. But when are we going to get there? Oh, we'll get there. And who's telling you where we're going? God. Yeah, okay. Right, yeah. God's telling us where we're going to go. And everyone's going. I'm leaving my family, everyone else there, but we're going somewhere else. Yes, we're going because God told us to go. So if you think about it, he goes, that's kind of crazy. Right? It is craziness. Because we have to think about in real time. Well, now we know how this the end of the story, but if you're in real time, you're there and God said, okay, go. It's going to be panic, anxiety. Your family is going to be saying wait a minute, wait. And you're telling us, yes, this God that you believe in is telling you, okay, let's call the psychiatrist or something. So the thing is, understanding that he went there, and the other thing is that, the other thing is that you understand, to be a person of faith, you have to be very intense. Okay? Because it says here, Abraham, he lived in tents. Okay? He lived in tents. But what it meant, okay, let me explain. Being in tents means that he was mobile. What it meant is that he said, I am living in a temporary state, and my existence here is not to be permanent. It said he was looking to a city whose foundations and the architect and builder is God. So what are you saying? Okay, so you and I, if we do own property and you're still paying the mortgage, right? Is that I'm working to pay off this title deed, so I don't owe the bank anymore. That's one of the goals of the American dream. But he said, no, my goal, this is God's dream, is to be getting a property that doesn't exist here on earth. This is a title deed to something that is not seen. It's not tangible. Something that I can't hold on to. So it really is a spiritual reality, or this is it's this pie in the sky. Right? So if you think about it, if you're talking to your friends and say, hey, I believe that there's this eternal God. One day, when I pass away from this earth, I'm going to be in this eternal dwelling place, the streets are gold. Jesus promised me in his Father's house there are many rooms, and I'm going to get a room there. They're either going to say, wow, that sounds great, that's unbelievable, or they go, wait a minute, are you really in touch with reality? Right? Is this heaven thing and all, is this really reality or not? Because that's what say Abraham did that, because that's what he's believing in. That's what God says. He's looking for a foundation, and whose architect and builder is God. See? So, I just want to share with you that I have friends that have actually literally taken this and said, we're going to go and do something different because God's calling us to do it. So many years ago, I used to live up in San Jose. Most of my friends there, they're all worked in high tech and all. is my friend Justin here, his wife Lai Chan, daughter Gracie, and he was a Silicon Valley engineer, worked at HP and all. And then, they went ups and downs of, downturns, layoffs and all. So one time he got laid off and he's going, okay, I've got a good severance package. What should I do? So he said, hey, I have this opportunity to go with a youth with a mission. They have this Crossroads training to see about, being a missionary or going somewhere. And he said, well, I got the time and I got the money, so go. And then later on he came back and he said, well, I still got time and maybe feel called to go to the mission. So now they have a missionary training school. So he went to that, which was in Colorado. So he went to that. And then after that, our church, we commissioned him. And then he said, okay, I'm going to go to Asia. I'm going to do church planting. And he and his wife, they literally sold their house, everything. They said, and we're going to go there. And they went and they did church planting. So he's like one of my faith heroes because he and his family, they went off and did that. Okay, but now because of situation, they're back here in the Bay Area and still doing outreach to international scholars and students. No. But he literally sold everything and then went. And probably some people are saying, especially up there, how property prices is like, don't sell. Don't sell, because you're saying, don't sell. You know the value of that thing? You know how much it is worth? But he and his wife are thinking of some greater reward. Some greater reward is that in my Father's house, there are many places, and I want to populate it with other people here who have never had an opportunity to hear the name of Jesus or know about the hope that we have. So the other thing that we see about to be a person of faith actually means that you need to be a gambler. You have to gamble. Yeah. I remember being young, I was at a church, an Asian church, very conservative. It's like, you cannot use cards. Cards are gambling. Okay. And if you're from like a Southern Chinese background, God forbid you play mahjong. Okay, now I'm not talking about the one that you stack up with the little tiles. Okay, the real mahjong, like if you watch it, because actually, my wife grew up in Hong Kong. Those are gambling parlors and all. You don't gamble at all. But here, what I see is that God actually says to be a person of faith, you got to do some gambling. Okay, you got to take some risks. Okay, and you need to put some money down. Okay, that you may or may not get back. See, now it says Abraham by faith, even though he's past age, okay, and Sarah, she was barren, enabled him to become a father because she considered him faithful and made his promise. So from one man as good as dead came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and countless as sand on the seashore. So it means that Abraham, he's past the age of having children. And so is his wife, okay? She's many decades past menopause, okay? And it says that's actually basically considered as dead. But it says that he trusted God. So God gives us this promise. So here's the stretch. When God gives you a promise, it will be stretching. Because Abraham, he has his first conversation with God at the age of 75. Okay? And then he's waiting around. He's going, man, I'm waiting around at least a decade, but no kid is coming, right? So then he, with his, the wife's maidservant, okay, Hagar, he has a child, Ishmael. Okay, this is 10 years after the promise. Okay? It's not until he's 100 and Sarah is 90 years old that they have their child Isaac, right? So, and you go, wow, he's a man of faith. But understand, when you look at Scripture, you see people, it said that even Abraham has his own faults and weaknesses. Okay, so this is kind of the husband he was. There were 2 times mentioned that he's visiting another place, and the ruler there, like, sees his wife, and apparently Sarah, she's very attractive, very desirable, and they said, oh, I want this woman. So him being the manly, defending my wife, said, oh, she's my sister. Okay, now one thing about that. Your husband is there, is like, yeah, I'm going to defend you. I promise, be with you forever. Oh, you're my sister now. This happens twice, right? And one time the guy's there, like, he's having she's in the household, and then he has this dream, and then, God, in the dream, said, no, this woman here is actually this guy's wife, and if you mess around with her, your life's going to be taken. And the guy's like, why didn't you tell me? And he's like, Abraham's going, oh yeah, I was afraid you're going to hurt me or kill me or something. So, but he had his own fears and, and own weaknesses, but he's still a man of faith because he's trusting. It's not him, but he's trusting in this big God. Okay? So he looked beyond these human limitations and said, I'm going to trust God. Okay, and they had a child, Isaac, and then as a result, right, they became blessing others. So the thing is that when you think about action and we think about movies that we like, like Jackie Chan movies and all, and he does most of his own stunts, but most of the people that are doing things, and you see action movies, spoiler alert, they're using wires. They're using green screen, okay? They've got all these harnesses and stuff to hold them in, and they know what's going to be happening, they rehearse it, they film it again and again. But in real life, that doesn't happen. In real life, you're going to be asked to do something, there's no wires. Okay? There's no way of coming back, okay? It's like, oh, you might crash and burn. You go, what do you mean? Okay? I'm going to say, look at, you say, oh, living and acting by faith. I said, every day, or most of us, you're taking a risk with your own life. Every day, today and every day going forward in America, you will do something that 100 people guaranteed will die. So what is that? You will be driving your automobile. Because every day in America, 100 people die from automobile-related accidents. Okay, either them or being hit by a car. Okay. So you are taking a risk already. So, oh, what are you going to do then? Okay, yeah, you can walk or something else. But we say, no, we're not going to do that. We're still willing to take the risk. Okay. So there is always risk involved. It's just a matter of which risk are you going to take. Okay? So the thing is, though, in the end, there is a reward. Okay? So, going there, he said, these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the thing promised. They only saw them, welcomed them from a distance. Maybe they were aliens and strangers on earth. People say that such things, so they're looking for a country of their own. If they've been thinking of their own country they left, they would have had an opportunity to return. Said they were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Therefore, God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he prepared a city for them. So it's talking about people that they were living by faith, and then they, some of them did not receive what they were promised. Okay? But there are others that they did receive that. Okay? So the thing is, ultimately, living by faith is actually, there is a reward. There's risk, but there will be reward. The reward may not be monetary. No. The reward may not be tangible. So, just want to share with you this picture in closing because, see, to actually do the things that God is asking you to do, for this church to do things that God is asking you to do, there'll be risks, and I want to let you know there'll be times where there'll be failures. Okay, so I've been doing the student ministry at Cal State Long Beach for like about 10 years, and I said, yeah, okay, God's called me to do this. We're going to start this off. So I didn't know any students, so I just kind of go there, and I said, okay, like if I build it, they will come. So I said, I got someone to volunteer. We're going to have this dinner there. I got a room there reserved there. I've got this nice dinner for like 20 people. And I handing out flyers and all, and then I show up there. It's like a Friday night, like 6 o'clock, and I'm waiting there in the room. The people deliver the food, and guess how many people came? Okay? You can count them on one hand. Actually, you couldn't even count them because no one came. But I did end up with a lot of good leftovers, okay? But it's like, oh, this is disaster, right? What do I tell people? Like, I tried to do this and no one showed up, right? So I said, oh man, I just need to pray more. So I did, and then the following year, a student that was from China, she had transferred from a community college, she came there, and then she started bringing her friends, and then the ministry started. Well, a whole different. But then that year, okay, one of the students that came, this is Kiwi, in the middle there, she's from Taiwan, and she had come just to study a year for English. And she met the other student, and she first came to a Christmas party, joined us. But Kiwi was suffering from depression and just struggles with her own identity, but she met Jesus, starting to go to church. This is actually at the baptism that we had for her. And then, did some little bit of Bible study with her, and then she went back home. But that's not the end of the story. Okay. Now remember, we started the first year as failure. So second year, there, met her, she's part of the group, she goes back. She goes back home, but her life is really transformed. So she shares she got mom, sister, brother, dad, okay, but her mom, sisters see that her life is transformed, so they're like, we want to follow Jesus too. So they start following Jesus, then they start going to church. Then a couple years later, like I'm doing a mission to Taiwan, and I'm going to go there, going to meet up with Kiwi. So I said, I want to meet with you. She's in the main city, Taipei. And she says, I want you to meet my mom too. And I said, okay, great. And so I meet her mom. Mom takes me to a nice restaurant. Mom says, okay, afterwards, I want to take you to my office. I go, oh, okay, sure. Now, so she has an office in downtown Taipei. So I didn't realize that her mom is actually a trainer for one of these large insurance agencies, sells insurance, and she's there in the office. So I go there in the office, and I can read a little bit of Chinese, and and on the door of one of the offices actually says, like, God loves you. And go to her office, and her mom's talking through Kiwi's translating, and she says, oh, you know what? I want you to pray with me. I want you to pray, because every so often we'll have a party, and we'll have a pastor come here, and I want my other office mates, the people working here, to know about Jesus. I go, what? I said, yeah, okay. And so the thing is, and this is something that God did, but if I hadn't taken the gamble to do that, and then Michelle had brought Kiwi, she met Jesus, goes there, that now I've got this is a corporation office there. Of course, this is in Taiwan, not here in America, but they're like sharing Jesus there with the co-workers, right? So the question is, where are you going? So I want to let you know, as we end here, you're going to boldly go where no man or woman has gone before. You know where you're going? Actually, all of you, tomorrow, next week, I trust will be around next year. You're going to be going somewhere no one else has gone before, because no human being on the earth right now, at least in California, has been until tomorrow. You haven't gotten there yet. It will happen in 24 hours, or next week, or next year. You are going actually where no person has gone before. You're going to go there. So the question is, do you have any fuel? You only need like $5 worth. That's a gallon's worth. Okay, you can still get there. But if you're like lost, don't know where to go, you got to call someone, which is you just pray. Say, Lord, where do you want me to go? So what it could be is God said, just go next door. Ask your neighbor to come to the barbecue. Oh, go to the cubicle. Talk to your coworker. Or in your classroom, ask your classmate, would you like to come? There's someone there that God is saying, just go to that person. Only take a couple steps. I'm not asking you to go across country. I'm not going to ask you to go over the seas. I'm just asking you to go somewhere, take a risk, but the reward is that someone will find the hope and love of Jesus. So, as you leave today, make sure that you have your, see, many gamblers, someone said there are many gamblers for gold, but few gamblers for God. So as you leave this morning, just make sure that you have your GPS with you. Let's pray.